Great. A very good afternoon to all. This is Jatin Luthra from the Office of GSES India Secretariat. Would like to welcome you all in this curated webinar supported by Interim Relocations. Today we have Mr. Gaurang Chattopadhyay and Lakshmi Hari, who will be touching upon some important aspects of technology and innovation in moving industry and some international best practices. On that note, I would first like to really touch upon few important aspects of GSES as an association. In the large corporate service domain, GSES offers advisory, advocacy, and expertise to our members by supporting initiatives and creating business infrastructure. Sorry, there must. Yeah. Okay, so as I was saying that in the large corporate service domain, GSES offers advisory, advocacy, and expertise to our members by supporting initiatives and creating business infrastructure through global reach, professional networking, through leadership and industry influential programs. While focusing on our 8 pillars, are also called as Council of Excellence, which are travel, hospitality, and services. And it seems to be getting some. Give me a second here. I'm really sorry for this. Just give me a second. Let me just quickly check. There has to be some technical error. Yeah, so I'm talking about the 8 Council of Excellence, which is travel services and hospitality, sustainability, risk mitigation, security investigation, project management, real estate, business continuity and disaster management, corporate social responsibility, facility management and transport operations, and at last, procurement and sourcing. With a membership base of 62,000 plus professionals across India and foreign, we have 12 chapters in India and 6 in other countries. We truly believe in our members, and thus it becomes our responsibility to create such platforms which can benefit them through various programs and initiatives. Industry articles, research papers, and knowledge workshops are the key drivers in sharing knowledge. Under the crisis support, the team of passionate leaders gather current job openings from across domains and chapters and circulate to our members in form of industry openings, which allows them to apply as per their desire. Partner Support Program is a digital exhibition program which gives an opportunity to the vendor community to showcase their products and services straight to our members. Last but not least, Knowledge Conclave is one of its kind platforms for not just sharing knowledge, but also network within the professionals across domains, which all happen under one umbrella. Above all of this, GSES as an association is proud in creating such environment with utmost ethical behavior followed under the guidance of ethics and governance. Well, on that note, now I would request Mr. Gaurang to start with the discussion, please. Over to you, Mr. Gaurang. Thank you. Mr. Gaurang, you are on mute.
Sorry, Jatin. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. And I'll hand it over to my colleague Lakshmi to start the webinar from our end and the presentation. And we'll take it forward from here. Over to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, Gaurang. Firstly, I want to thank GSES for this opportunity The topic that has been selected, which is innovations and technology in the moving industry, is a very interesting one and also relevant in these times and otherwise. Usually, people would not associate technology with the moving industry, especially in our country where there are so many fly by night operators in every nook and corner. However, you would be surprised at the technological advancements and innovations in this sector. During the course of this webinar, we will try to touch upon certain innovations in the key areas of our operations, some of which you may be already familiar with, and some of which would be specific to this industry. Before moving forward with the webinar, I would just like to give you a brief about Interim. Interim is a leading relocation multinational company headquartered in Dubai. After the early success in the Middle East, where it opened in 1995, Interim identified India as the emerging market and became the first multinational company to start the India operations in 1997 from Mumbai. In the last 25 years, Interim has grown its footprint in 60 countries, able to service 180 countries, and enabling us to offer our customers a seamless service to almost anywhere in the world. Handling more than 250,000 moves annually makes us today one of the biggest operators across most markets. We also have a continuing relationship with more than 200 Fortune 500 companies, embassies, UN bodies, and large corporate houses worldwide, which is also a testimony of the quality services that we provide, making us one of the most reliable names in the relocation industry. So, what are the credentials that make us one of the most reliable movers and an industry expert? To be able to uh, well, bring out a statement on the topic today. We have handled, we have been the exclusive supplier for the world's largest biometric data center, which is UADAI, where we packed and moved assets worth 1,000 crores and also assisted in moving office assets up to 26,000 employees of TCS. So that's enough about us, and moving on to the topic. Uh, Before we move on to the topic, it is also critical to understand what is it that has triggered a technology in this industry, the requirement for innovation in this industry. The 21st century saw a cyber culture take over, and the moving industry, though initially hesitant and slow to respond, had to embrace the technology in the day to day working. The reason being that the new generation, that is the millennial generation, with an access to information in their fingertips, always will choose a service provider who aligns with their thoughts while being efficient in saving their time and money. Today, the term personalized services has changed. It is based on the tech savviness that seems to be the new mantra for a modern customer experience. And this is now seen in the packing and moving companies also. The big players are not just any small corner shop who are investing heavily in technology to ensure that they provide seamless services to customers. So, why do we need innovation and technology? The reason, as are listed below, it is to elevate our competency level to a different uh, level that is expected by the customer. Investments in technology is directed towards a seamless workflow. So the reason for investing is to ensure whether it is sales, marketing, customer service department, operations department, HR, or any finance or any other department, all get covered in a single module, which allows for a seamless flow or seamless workflow, and for each business function to review the information as well as for the management to make business decisions. All of this was earlier, maybe a decade back, very cumbersome to collate all this information, or it was not available at all. We are also leveraging high-tech tools such as customized apps, cloud-based apps, sensors, which are enabling a better control on the shipments being packed and moved, and also to enhance customer experience. The result being that today there are several service providers who are creating customized solution for this sector, the packing and moving and relocation companies, to track information from an inquiry level right up to closure. This we will be discussing more in the coming slides. However, this also means that there is a growing dependency, which is also unavoidable, on technology. So, what is the impact that technology has had on this industry? The first impact has been, and the biggest impact has been, on brand visibility. The organizations that are invested in technologies, who are serious about the business, this is a very, very important aspect for them, that their brand should be visible to customers. The second important impact of technology has been on the business process enhancement. Impact of technology, or the technology is also used for customer satisfaction, or what we call customer experience now, which is probably several levels higher than customer satisfaction. It has enabled better connectivity within the industry, among industry peers, and also outside with customers and corporates and other customers who are in requirement of these services. Technology has today enabled the industry to offer a variety of relocation services under a single umbrella. Without further delay, I actually want to invite my colleague, Mr. Gorongo, who is much more tech savvy than me, to take us through the slides and explain in detail about what each of these means and how technology impacts each of these important aspects of the moving industry.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Well, we will try to explain to the extent possible the application of technology, and of course some of the innovations that are very specific to the moving industry as a whole. And some of the points that Lakshmi has pointed out over here will be covered specifically, and broadly what I would take you through would be, a little bit detail on brand visibility, then certain aspects of business process enhancements that is possible in the moving industry, some specifics about operational efficiency, and maybe a little bit about the back-end activities that go on in the moving industry, which is not quite visible to the customers at large, but there's a lot of activity that helps in streamlining a lot of processes in the moving industry. So that is something that I would like to bring forward, so that it actually illustrates how all these things get integrated with the whole relocation process. And then moving on from there, we would also like to try and point out as to what are the kind of technological advancements that we are trying to introduce in the moving industry in terms of customer experience, as was pointed out by Lakshmi a short while ago. And we will also try to explain why it is so critical to our industry. Some of it might sound a little familiar to many of you, because these are also integral part of many of the other verticals, other industry areas. But how it relates to the relocation and moving industry is something that we'll try to put forward. So moving on, the first point that I would like to cover is the brand visibility, which is relevant to our industry. Now, how do we achieve that? Some of these are mentioned on the slide, as you can see. The first and foremost being a website. A website, well, it sounds to be quite a normal thing to do these days, but talking specifically about the moving industry, a website is very, very critical, because it has to be interactive, it has to be informative, and it has to be relevant. Because in the moving industry, we would like to take note that the entry barrier is very low. So anybody and everybody, if they want, can start a shop and start calling themselves as a relocation or a moving company. And once they do, they might also put up a website. So how does a customer, as a user of the services, distinguish from one such so-called fly-by-night operator from somebody who's a strong player in the market and who's a serious player and who's customer-centric? In order to do that, we have to have a website which is designed to cater to the customer queries. Now, just to give you an example, what would a customer want to do when they visit a website of a moving company? The first and foremost thing, they would like to obviously want to know about the company and if they are someone who can be trusted. And what brings forth the trust is, of course, the details of the company, the duration that the company has been in the business, the references, and of course, whether the services that he is looking for are available to the customer. So all these things are curated in the website for easy visibility to the customer. Now, they might also like to see if there is a tracking facility available. So there could be two sets of customer: a new customer who has not used the services of that moving company, and there could be an existing customer who has already used and possibly would like to see what else or what other alternatives are available. So in both the cases, the website is something that is unique in a way that it should take care of all the requirements and the queries that the customer might have. Again, to give you an example, the customer might like to put forward his inquiry and might expect an instant response. So how do we do that? The website should be capable of doing that. And in the subsequent slides, we will try to explain how it's done, how the interaction happens. As I mentioned, that there are so many fly-by-night operators, and they would create websites, and possibly the visibility would be crowded. A discerning customer might have difficulty in distinguishing a serious player whenever they go into a search mode. And there could be thousands and thousands of companies that might be thrown up by the search engine. So what do we do? As a moving company, like any other industry, we have also got involved in search engine optimization. So we are doing it with Google. Many of the companies are involved with Google in optimizing the search engine and throwing up the relevant results. So that we are there. So in order to tap the customers, that's the first step that any moving company, a serious moving company, would have to indulge in. It also extends to social media pages, optimizing the social media opportunities like Facebook and LinkedIn. Also, to directly get in touch with the customers, emailers, maybe WhatsApp chat, etc. Everything is leveraged for a direct contact with the customer. So all these facilities have been integrated in the system, in the technology that have been in use in the moving industry at the moment. It might also happen that not every moving company might have strengths in every area of movement. So, however, the customer might look for an end-to-end solution. So, how does it happen for the customer? At the back end, there could be an integration of interrelated services, leveraging on the core competencies of certain companies. But to the customer who approaches the moving company, he might look for an end-to-end solution. And these all interrelated services are sewn up, and it's a seamless kind of solution that comes to the customer because of several layers of backend integration that happens at the backend. So simple things like, it could be a transportation aspect, it could be a packing aspect, it could be a settling in service aspect. All these things might be the moving patches that a customer might be looking for, but not. It's possible that a single company might not be providing all the services with equal efficiency. So there could be a peer level, cross leveraging of each other's core competencies. But to the customer, it would appear that it's being provided as a seamless solution. And of course, in order to sustain the brand visibility, there is a lot of promotion on digital platforms. It could be forums like certain groups or associations wherein specific targeting is done to create a brand visibility wherever that's possible. So once we have arrived, then we can possibly further take it ahead for the customer. So the customer has to happen before any other solution can be provided. Taking you ahead, I will take you through a few segments. First of all, that would be the business enhancements, process enhancements that are possible in the moving industry. So there would be certain segments specific to the moving industry that I would like to dwell upon while sharing certain information on this. How innovation and technology is being introduced into the relocation industry. There could be several more points, but we are touching upon a few select points to give you an idea as to how it's happening. The first one being business inquiry. So as I was saying, the customer has to happen. So how is the customer happening? The customer would come forward with a requirement, and in the initial days, the customer may not have several opportunities to get in touch with the moving company to address all his needs. But today, what we have is an instant mechanism of capturing all the requirements. However, which way the customer would like to contact us, we are there to immediately respond to him. So moving industries would have created a platform wherein details of the scope of work, the timelines, etc., everything can be captured and immediately get processed at the back end and a response given to the customer. So it could be through a web query, or it could be through a WhatsApp query, it could be through an IVR that the customer might be calling up, it could be a toll-free number the customer might be calling up, and it could be as simple and conventional as picking up a telephone and calling up the moving service provider. But all these things get integrated at the back end in an ERP system, which processes the information and gets back to the customer almost instantly for whatever needs he have. And if there's a further course of action that is required, that's again communicated back to the customer. Now, to illustrate one more aspect of where business process is very critical is the interface that we have with our customer at a subsequent stage after an inquiry has been processed. Now, that is the pre-move survey. Now, what is a pre-move survey? It gives an opportunity for the moving company representative to interface with the customer. In most cases, in earlier situation, and that too, I must say, pre-pandemic period, there was a visit arranged by one of the representatives of the moving company to conduct a survey, list down the requirements along with the assets which need to be relocated and moved from one location to another. Now, what has happened is, in the good old days, and if I may call it good old days, the representative used to carry a pen and pencil and a paper to note down all the details manually, and then come back and then feed that information with the team members to take it forward and provide a solution in terms of a quotation and a proposal. But that involved a certain kind of delay. There was scope of manual errors in the details that were captured. So the next transition was to adopt app-based solutions. What it meant is the representative might still go and visit the place or the residence of the customer and use an app in a hand carry device, which could be a tablet. All the reports, all the details would instantly get processed, and the requirement would come forward, based on which there would be a further proposal or a quotation, which can also be done instantly, standing there itself, and the customer would have a chance to decide then and there only as to, or if required, there could be a negotiation also that can happen, and then it's taken forward. Now, from there on, from a personal visit, we have also now transitioned into an alternative of a virtual survey, wherein the customer would be sitting there in the comfort of his residence. The moving company representative would then connect with him virtually, capture all the details, capture all the conversation, capture all the videos, capture all the photographs, whatever the customer would like to share. And then everything gets processed on the cloud. And again, there is no manual intervention. The report comes out and the proposal is sent out within no time to the customer. Moving further ahead, the moving industry is slowly adopting AI as well. In that, nothing has to be done, nothing has to be noted. All that might be required to be done is to capture a video, which even the customer can do at his or her end, and then which is fed into the app, supported by AI, and all the calculations that are needed, all the decisions that need to be taken as far as the scope of work is concerned, would eventually come out without a single human intervention. That's where we are arriving. That's an adoption that is taking place at the moment while we speak. So that's part of it. Moving forward, the further business process advancement that we are talking about is about preparing the proposal itself. Now, the major part that happens at the back end of a moving company is to collate all the related costs, which could be involving not only the company itself, it could also involve several of the supply chain partners in the channel. So integrating all the costs, all the calculations together in the system is something that's an enhancement that has already happened. So unlike, again, a manual intervention, everything happens almost automatically. Once the requirement through the survey report comes through, everything is again available in the system, all with a click of a couple of buttons. There would be a proposal suited and customized as per the customer's requirement, and then sent it out to our customers. As a result of that, and during the course of all this activity, there would be a lot of alerts and updates that would also reach the customer as well as internally for the moving company personnel to take care of. So the customer would know when and where he is receiving the details, and if he has anything to say, he can just revert back with the facilities made available to him over the cloud virtually, and the decisions are taken without any delay. So customers have the options of several interfaces. It could be online, a link, or through chat box. All these facilities are available to the customer. So talking about business process enhancement, these are a couple of examples that we thought that would make sense. But moving ahead, we have certain, again, instances of operational efficiency that is achieved, operational advancements that have been done through innovations, not necessarily purely through technology, but there are a couple of instances of innovations that are done over a period of time based on the experience to improve efficiency in the jobs. But before we proceed, maybe if you have any questions, we might take a few questions till now. Is that something that we can do, Jatin?
Gaurang, I think we can continue it, and I'm just looking at the chat box. If any questions arise in between, I will definitely inform.
Sure, Jatin, not a problem. Not a problem. So talking about some of the operational efficiencies that we have seen in the moving industry in terms of innovations, there are certain tools and certain techniques that have been introduced, which have helped in improving the efficiency, the way our operations team at the back end carry out their activities, and reduce the manual load, reduced errors, reduce exceptions like damages, etc., and improve the efficiency by reducing the time that is taken to complete an activity. Simple things like, trolleys with hydraulic facility, with compartments for various different kinds of items to be taken or moved forward together. That's a simple innovation that has been done. There are cartons which have been designed to possibly pack specific items without spending much time in packing. Simple things like, you have cartons with slots in between for packing glassware and crockery, which can be slotted in easily with cushioning inside. So what a particular packing crew might just need to do is to pick up a carton, prepare that carton, and then slot the items inside, and then seal it up, rather than individually trying to pack and spend time, which might upset the customer because of the sheer timeline that it would take to individually pack smaller items, and avoid that situation as well. Heavy items need to be moved, so there could be a solution in the form of a shoulder dolly. So instead of having possibly 4 guys picking up a heavy item, a shoulder dolly can assist just one person to pick up and move a heavy item around. Similarly, it could be furniture sliders also, which can not only move furnitures within the premises or into a vehicle waiting to be loaded, but also it can help move heavier items very easily with the help of maybe 2 persons, which otherwise would have needed maybe a forklift or a hydraulic trolley, or maybe 8 guys to lift that item. So rather than that, it brings an efficiency in terms of the tools and equipments that we are using, and these have been introduced in this industry. There are several more examples to cite in this. Now, not to forget the sustainability aspect of all this, the moving industry contributes in its part, being responsible for the environment, and to reduce waste. There are a lot of recyclable cartons that have been introduced in the industry. So unlike a weak carton, which possibly gets destroyed immediately after use, and then it contributes to the junk and waste, polluting the environment, we have introduced a lot of recyclable cartons, which can be used almost 20 to 25 times before it's finally discarded and processed as e-waste, as waste. So recycled cartons, it helps in reducing the waste, and B, it also helps the moving companies in leverage the cost to an extent. So there could be cartons, there could be even moving blankets, which can be reused without any damage to them. And obviously, as I said, reducing the waste as well. Moving on, another set of back-end activities which leverage technology as well as innovation, which is to help in resource allocation. So this is where technology plays a big role. Now, think of the situation during pandemic, wherein activities were still on, being in the relocation industry. Most of the serious players in the market were involved in a lot of support activities also. Now, it was quite common in those days, wherein the people or the crew who were supposed to report unfortunately fell ill and could not report. So a critical activity could have got affected, but for the fact that there was technology support which was available, which helps in resource allocation as well as resource mobilization. So it happens automatically. Now, there's an ERP system which takes care of the leave of the crew members, which triggers a job diary, as we call it in the relocation parlance, in the moving industry parlance. So if it so happens there is a crew who falls absent because of any unfortunate illness, then immediately there's a system alert, and a critical job would be taken care of by mobilizing resource from a less critical activity into that activity, and the job diary is updated accordingly. So crew strength or a team that is formed for a particular project or a particular activity for moving would still go unaffected despite an emergency or an exigency happening. So that helps. And it's not only as far as human resources is concerned, it could be of material crunch that might happen. So material available at a different location would be immediately mobilized. Same goes for transportation. Alternate transport arrangements are immediately affected in case there is a deviation or an exception. So all through technology, all through system support that happens. A very common phenomenon is to use barcode. Now that was till recently not a very common practice in this industry, but it has kind of become mandatory for use. What it does is, again, improves efficiency, it improves accuracy. So once some assets are picked up from a customer's location, each and every piece of that consignment is tagged with a barcode so that their life cycle is tracked. So they are tracked throughout their life cycle from the origin till the destination till the job is completed. So if there is any deviation, it can immediately be tracked and the corrections are made. So chances of any asset going missing are almost next to nil. And since there's a barcoding available, since there is a tracking of each and every item available, there's a possibility and there's a facility of tracking these consignments live, and with the given access to customers, the customers themselves can track their consignments and check the status of where exactly their consignment is. And not only the consignment as a whole, if he has a requirement for splitting up the consignment into different locations to be sent to different locations, he can track each and every packet in that consignment and see what the status of it is. How is it possible? Because A, there's a barcode tracking each and every packet. Furthermore, the vehicle possibly in which it's traveling has a GPS tracker. And that's again a very common phenomenon in the moving industry today. That's a technology which has been adopted pretty early in this industry. And so a packet which has to be tracked can be tracked up to the facility throughout the journey from location A to location B. Once it reaches the destination, immediately the customer, if he has the right access, can check that, okay, it has arrived. If he's ready to receive the packet, he would immediately be able to communicate back and say that, okay, I'm waiting for it. What time is it reaching? There would be an alert sent to him that, okay, this is the timeline that you can expect in which your consignment is going to reach you. If he has an alternative instruction, then he might also say that, okay, he's not in a position to receive the consignment. Accordingly, it needs to be sent to storage and in the warehouse and held back for maybe a month or so. But having sent that into a warehousing facility of a moving company, it does not mean that we lose track of it. It's still tracked in the warehouse up to the last location in that warehouse. So that's all again possible through technology. So warehousing and storage facility is a back-end activity that happens that possibly never comes to the forefront, but it's a very, very critical and important cog in the entire gamut of activities that take place in a moving industry. So how do we do that in a warehouse? Warehouse, well, it's a physical warehouse, but it's managed through a warehouse management system. So any established moving company or a serious moving company who does it efficiently would definitely have a warehouse management system. And what does that mean? It means that any transaction that takes place in the warehouse, any storage that takes place in the warehouse facility, any consignment that enters in the warehouse facility, all those things are tracked. So there's an accurate stock take that's done. Unlike in the earlier days, where a physical stock take, I mean, it would have been done physically. It's still required to be done physically, but instead of using a register and a paper and pen, it's done with the use of an app with the help of scanning. Since each and every item in the warehouse and storage facility has a barcode attached to it, and it also has a location identity. Everything is scanned and captured, and the stock is verified, reconciled, and checked. And that's a very quick process. So all that a person or a representative has to do is to go through the warehouse aisles, go to the location to check for a particular stock, and confirm that it's available, because he's scanning and the balance stock is always prompted to be checked. So he goes on to the next item, checks it, confirms the system, so on and so forth. So barcode system is something that we already discussed, and it's an integral part of warehouse management system and the inventory management that is done today. So anything that goes out, any stock that goes out, comes back and goes out again, or if it goes out finally, everything is tracked, and that's where technology plays big role, because it's not only about keeping things safe, which invariably is a given. Things should be safe, the infrastructure should be good, and access to all the items should be available without any obstruction. But how is it all maintained and monitored? It's through the apps that are in play, it's through the tools that are engaged, and the processes that are followed. So the system updates happen as and when any activity takes place. So if the warehouse is at a particular location, the management might like to know what is the capacity utilization of my warehouse at a particular location. If there is further stock which is expected to come in, there would be a planning that would happen in the system itself. So instead of moving it to a particular warehouse, which might have got filled up, there would be an alert for the alternate location that would be available wherein it can be slotted in. These all are planned through the system integration that has happened. Last but not the least, as far as warehouse management system is concerned, aging of stock. So there, if it's again very customer specific, but at times, for several purposes, the customer might like to know for a particular line of items what could have been the aging. Now that's only possible through a warehouse management system. Now it's a very common phenomenon in a logistics company, but moving companies have now adopted it, and also in many of the cases play a very similar role in supporting the customers. A related thing, how the storage has become state of art these days, unlike a very simple kind of a store area. Storage areas are racked up. These racks are industrial racks that are kind of innovative in the nature that rather than expanding horizontally, these racks expand vertically. And with tools like scissor lifts and hydraulic trolleys, consignments and the warehouse items are easily stacked onto the top rack, or these can be relocated from one rack location to another rack location, easily retrieved and easily brought back. So these are designed in a way which are very unique to the relocation industry, because as we know that in moving industry, there are household goods that are primarily moved, and household goods are mostly non-geometric in shape. So how to handle that and how to innovate in storing them is something that the industrial racks have been designed to, so that these can be accommodated easily without much of an issue in the storage areas. The storage areas, of course, as far as the securities are concerned, it's a very common thing to have CCTV cameras, firewall systems. But the fact that needs to be pointed out over here is that everything is integrated with the ERP system that we have. So any aberration, any exception that happens in the premises are immediately alerted, and necessary corrective and steps are taken. Um, as already mentioned, barcodes are there. There are also RFID tags which are used in warehouse areas. Now, these are very interactive kind of labeling that we are able to do, mostly for project-specific requirements in the industry. So that's also something that has been introduced. So with the help of the systems that are available, there's also, as per customer requirement, there are billing cycles that are maintained. These are again done automatically rather than uh, doing it manually and keeping track of the billing cycles manually. So customers would get alert that their shipment is in storage, and as per the agreement, if they're supposed to receive the invoice at a particular point of time or after a certain period of time, they would receive it automatically. So that reduces the billing cycle, that reduces the payment cycle, and it helps in collecting the invoice payments also. So these are certain things which are again all integrated. So having talked about a little bit about the back-end activities, there are a lot of customer experience and that we also would like to talk, which also, although prevalent in many of the other industries, are now a common sight in the moving industry as well. It's a very common thing that the customer would expect to track his consignment. That's a facility that's available in the web portal. And moving further on, the customer can track it, downloading apps, wherein specific to his consignment, any related details are always available 24 hours round the clock, which is possible because everything is system driven in the moving industry at the moment. So there's a lot of automation that happens, updates that happen automatically, and everything is fed into the customer's device as well, in case he has been given the access to track these. Simple things like the customer would like to make a payment, so uh, digital payment options are available to the customer. And also, as briefly touched upon during the previous slides, cloud-based technology is something that most of the moving companies of repute have moved into, which helps in business continuity. Now, we are not reliant or relying on a particular location server to provide all the support for that particular location. If for some reason the location servers are down, there is an alternate server facility available from wherein details can be captured, taken forward, and acted accordingly. So these are some of the customer experience facilities which are common otherwise, but in the moving industry have also made advancements. Again, moving ahead, we would like to mention, and also as my colleague Lakshmi had mentioned at the beginning, we are dealing with personal effects of customers in the moving industry. More often than not, we are moving items on behalf of our customers, which are very dear to him or her. And we always say that we are carrying sentiments rather than commodities. So it makes it very, very essential for us to engage very closely with our customers and monitor how things are made. We also try to gauge the sentiments of the customer during the course of the relocation process. So what we do, we use AI again in the feedback management system. Now, we do, have been in the relocation industry. It's a very common practice to collect feedback. Now, in the initial days, again, that feedback was possible to be collected in a simple scenario, if we say, once at the time, when packing has been done at the origin, and the second opportunity to collect the feedback possibly would have been when everything has been uh, unpacked at the destination after the consignment reaches the destination. Now, these are the two touch points wherein we could collect feedback. Now, in between, there could have been a lot of developments which should have been tracked. Now, the customer might have had an excellent experience, which he probably wanted to communicate, which possibly got communicated, but because of the manual way in which the feedback was being collected, so there is a time lag. However, more critically, if the customer has not been happy about something, now if a course correction is required, then again, a manual collection of that feedback would not help in an immediate course correction or steps to be taken to address the concerns of the customer. So, what is being done? We are introducing AI here, wherein customer would have an opportunity to interact with us at any point of time during the entire life cycle of the relocation process. So he would have an access wherein either he wants to call up, or he wants to send across a message, or he wants to comment on something. Everything is captured. And on a real time basis, we have a net promoter score, which we call the NPS, available to be analyzed and steps taken as required. So if the net promoter score is indicating that we are on the positive side, the net NPS is positive, possibly things are going well. But there would be a target net NPS. If the NPS is not achieving this target, then possibly we are going somewhere, going down somewhere, doing well somewhere else. Now what happens? we need to take corrective steps at each point. So we need to track who are the detractors and who are the promoters. So anybody who is extremely happy with the services, or the way the moving services have been provided, he automatically would be a promoter and would be referring the services of that moving company. But if for some reason, if he is not happy, he would be a detractor. He may be silent, but he would, it needs to be tracked that he has had a concern. And that can only be possible through the use of AI and the interface that we would be giving the customer. So a silent customer is not necessarily a happy customer, as we all know. How do we do that again? There's a lot of text analytics that's done. So keywords are analyzed using NLPs, natural language processing, that takes place. And there's an automated escalation management system also that we use. And so if there's a concern that gets triggered, the application helps us in tracking it. It goes to the first level. If within a definite time period there is no action taken effectively, it goes to the next level, and so on and so forth, till the time everything is resolved and things are back on track. To the extent, at the back end, the NPS can also be linked to a particular employee as to how he is performing. So that's the level of technology that we have been introducing in the moving industry as well, because it's a very, very high engagement process. And we would like to leverage technology, try and innovate to the extent possible. And there are specific situations that has helped because of the use of this technology and system. Moving on, very specifically, we know that the relocation industry and the moving industry has been affected as far as household goods movement is concerned during the COVID period. Now, what has been the alternate arrangements and the innovations that has been happening in the industry? And to take you through further, I would request my colleague Lakshmi to please come up and help you out on this. Yeah, over to you, Lakshmi.
Yeah, thanks, Garanga. So as Garango mentioned that with the concept of a global citizen, it has become all the more important that any reliable and company that is very serious about their business, they do invest in technology because that is the way forward. But the requirement and impact of technology was felt very much during the COVID period, because at this was the point of time where the operations were crippled. by severe restrictions, which could have been restrictions due to isolations of customers, which could have been due to quarantine, due to lockdowns, due to restrictions imposed by the government. So it was a very challenging time for this industry as well as the other industries. And this was a time that technology played a very important role in bridging the gap, especially in these three key points. The first one is in connecting with the customer or maintaining contact with the customer, because the customers were stuck elsewhere. Their packaging or their shipments were in other locations, and this was made possible that we could maintain our contact with the customers, give them peace of mind, and all this could happen because of the virtual connect that was possible with the customer. Moreover, even the teams, whether it was a customer service team or the sales team, they were also restricted and hampered during COVID. Many places they had to opt, or there was no choice, but they had to opt to work from home. Even though we were lucky that our crew was all out to help all our corporate customers as well as private customers as much as possible, yet there was the work from home. There were severe restrictions, and the cloud-based technology that Gorango spoke about, which is the basis of a customized module that is being used by packing and moving companies worldwide, that was a module that actually enabled the different departments to coordinate better and for a seamless flow of information between the different departments, so that the end customer who had to move and there was no other choice but the customer required services, whether it was in a business continuity support or their personal household goods moving, that was not impacted, and we were able to offer a seamless service. The technology also enabled us to optimize the resources, because this was a time where there was severe resource crunch. There were governmental rules about the restriction of the number of employees that could be present at a job site or at an office location. So, technology also played a very critical role in enabling the optimization of resources. However, whenever we talk about technology, although any company that is very serious about their business would want to invest more and make sure that technology is one of the pivotal points on which their business runs, we cannot also bypass, or we cannot close our eyes to the challenges that are, also posed by these technological advancements in the industry. The first challenge is the customer expectation. The moment the new generation or the new type of consumers expect swift responses and swift service deliveries, and this is only possible if we have the technology in place and we make use of the technology. Along with technology comes a very major challenge, which is the data privacy, or due to the hacking and the phishing challenges that are faced nowadays. The personal information of customers is, it's very important that any company takes the adequate steps to ensure that the personal information of the customers is kept confidential, there is no leakage, and you would also probably be aware of very stringent measures and policies that have been generated by European countries and US based countries to ensure that the personal information of the customers are kept under lock and key and not available to any hacker. The third challenge that comes about with a technology based working model is an impersonal touch. So, being in a service industry where we are dealing with customers' home, I would not call it a house actually, I would call it a home, where the customer is very attached to their items. There, a personal touch is always required. Now, with the technology creeping into the industry, it brings about with it certain impersonal touch, and we should ensure that even though technology would replace certain aspects of the supply chain, yet there should be critical and key customer contact points where we continue to maintain in touch or be in touch with the customers and ensure that the personalized service or the customized service that we talk about is not impacted. Uh, In conclusion, what we would like to actually highlight is that technology in the moving industry is still in its infancy stage. There are many companies or the larger companies that have implemented very successful technologies to help in a smooth relocation to their customers. There are mid-sized companies who are also realized that it is important to invest in technologies, and they're already doing their bit. This is one of the critical factors which customers would choose going forward in selecting a reliable moving company, because customers actually get better control in their choice of a reliable moving partner. By doing the due diligence nowadays, the new generation customers have got access to information on their fingertips. They are not hesitant to do research online, and this is what will the Google reviews or the reviews online, which are the honest reviews and online searches, with what will be impacting the selection of a moving going forward, the selection of a moving partner going forward by the customer. Technology will also help the moving industry to cater to the changing expectation of the new generation through the use of newer technologies, which will be based on artificial intelligence. That's it from Gorango and me. If anybody has any questions, we are open to answering them.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Goranga and Mr. Lakshmi, for brilliant insights. I think well, when we said that the experience and the technology that brings a lot of the expertise and in the domain, which is pretty much required these days, especially for the corporate service domain, wherein we all wanted to understand. I mean, for us, for the corporate, it is very limited to the moving of material from one place to another, but it is way beyond to that, and that is where the technology and the innovation brings in a lot of value. And with technologies, you rightly said that with technologies, there are a lot of value addition which can be done within the organization, which is the benefit for the organizations there. I think there is one question which we received, and it is something related to do with the recycling. When Mr. Guram, you were talking about the recycling of the products there. So the question is that, do you have some tie-ups with the recyclers, or you manage it directly?
Okay, so rather than recycling, the right word would be reusing. So ultimately, it does go into recycling, but for a considerable amount of time, a lot of our packing material goes into reuse. So by that I would mean, like as I mentioned, that if we are talking about a carton, then that carton is in the first place made in such a way that it can be used several times, rather than the carton getting damaged in the first instance itself, and we have to possibly think about how to dispose it off. And it's not about one carton; there are lakhs and lakhs of cartons that are used in the industry. So depending on the scale of operation that a particular moving company would be in, so it's very, very imperative that these materials are reused. So what we do are we have sturdy plastic cartons, plastic packing materials, and we also made a mention of blankets, paper blankets, which can be used several times over. Now, what happens ultimately when it's not in a state of use anymore? Like, it cannot be used as a carton because it might fall apart if we try to pack anything in it. So that quality control in any case is maintained on the suitability of usage, so that things can be packed in it after a while. Now, assuming that it's not possible to pack or use as a packing carton anymore, then it's used for, again, I mean, it's then taken apart, so to speak. It's made into pieces, and these are used for strengthening other packing. So, for example, if we are packing a furniture item, a carton might be used, or pieces of that carton, since the material is hard, it might then be opened up and used as a protective layer. So not just one carton, we might be using 5, 10, 15 more cartons, open them up, those cartons which may not be in a position to be used as a carton anymore, but the material is still sturdy and can act as a protective layer. So once that is opened up, one of the inner layers in furniture might be wrapped with that carton because it provides a sturdy cover or a layer and protects that furniture item from damage. So that's how it keeps on getting a new life for again a certain period of time. Now, ultimately, what is done is, if we have a lot waste accumulated after the final use, and when it cannot be used anymore or should not be used anymore, we have partners for who would recycle as per use, and we have tie-ups with several partners who recycle waste material like this. And when we say waste material, it could be corrugated cartons, it could be plastic cartons, it could be other packing materials like even waste paper as well. It could even be plastics like plastic sheets, bubble wraps, etc., which are all categorized, segregated. These are not dumped together and handed over. So we have a segregation activity also that take place in our facilities. These are then handed over to the relevant vendor or the tie-up that we have with the recycling company. So either all corrugations are made into pulp by them, and possibly something else is made out of that. Plastics are disposed of as per the norms, as per the environment norms by our partners, and we get a certificate. Anything that is disposed or scrapped or finally sent for recycling, we collect certificates from them, and we ensure that we are dealing with partners so that environment is ultimately not affected. I hope that answers.
I think it's quite a detailed answer, and I'm sure that uh, the person has got us the answer there. So yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, based on the entire process, the right word is the reuse and not the recycle. So I think on that note, since we don't have any more questions, so yeah, so basically we just have one request. If some more insights and the information regarding this the entire process that you've been following it up can be shared with them. So maybe we can look at it how we can present it to our members in a form of some kind of a research paper or some sort of information which can be done. So we can
Yes.
definitely look at it. Um,
Surely.
and till then, I think we are at the end of the session. So thank you so much once again for your valuable time, and we look forward to have some more interesting sessions like this. And everyone wants to learn about the technologies and the innovations there. So thank you so much again, and you all have a good day.
Thank you very much for facilitating this. Thank you, Jatin. Thank you, GSES, for this. And we look forward to many such opportunities to share more insights into our industry. And it will be a
Absolutely.
pleasure for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank